Football supporters in Europe have called on FIFA to immediately halt sales of national team allocations for next year's World Cup in America. It accuses football's governing body of imposing incomprehensible ticket prices that risk shutting ordinary fans out of the tournament. In a statement, the European fan umbrella group said it had reached astronomical levels, and based on the price tables quietly circulated to national associations, a supporter following a team from the first group match through to the final would pay close to 117,000 rand, almost 5 times the equivalent cost at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Supporters are expected to pay the full amount early next year in order to secure the right to buy tickets all the way to the final. Now, the cheapest tickets category, which is category 4, would not be made available to the most loyal supporters through associations. Now, FIFA is reserving those tickets for general public sales. The group called that decision a monumental betrayal of World Cup tradition and the contribution of travelling and supporters to the tournament's atmosphere. All right. And for more on this, we are now joined by Professor Simon Chadwick. He's a researcher and a professor at Eurasian Sport Industry, Milan and Business School to further discuss the implications of what is taking place within the FIFA World Cup, and also comments made by the FIFA president Gianni Infantino following him awarding US President Donald Trump with that peace prize. And Professor, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, let's start off here. It seems as if when it comes to the FIFA World Cup, many have raised concerns around the exorbitant pricing of the FIFA World Cup prize tickets. But at the same time, there seems to be an issue here when it comes to the issues around, of course, those who are expected to travel to the US. And some of the reports emerging that the US now will seek your social media access to see how you have been behaving on social media. What do you have to say in terms of the implications here, particularly for the love of the sport, and that is the FIFA World Cup?
I think I need to check my own personal social media account, I think, before I travel to the United States. This World Cup 2026 was supposed to be an easy World Cup because the last 2 editions in Russia in 2018 and Qatar in 2022 were somewhat controversial. And yet it does appear as though what will happen next summer is arguably this will be the most complicated World Cup in history. Obviously, there are issues around people getting into and moving around the United States, as you rightly pointed out. In addition to the normal visa requirements, there are going to be issues around checking people's social media profiles. When you add into that the actual cost of buying tickets, keeping in mind that there will be fans travelling from Africa, from Europe and elsewhere in the world. The overall cost of actually being a fan or being a spectator at these games is going to be mind-blowing. And so what we may well see is obviously some controversy around people getting into the country, but I think also there will be some questions asked about how many people are actually there. The one thing that I would just say, though, is this is the biggest market for sport in the world. So the United States does account for more than 1/3 of global industry size. And this is the kind of ticket pricing strategy that many affluent consumers of sport in the United States are used to. So I think the net outcome of all of this, in my assessment, is that what we're actually going to get is a US tournament for US people, and many other people from around the world will effectively be excluded from being there.
And when it comes to the issues around social media, this has raised alarm bells for many around the world. You saying yourself that, if they check your social media, there will be a bit of question marks, particularly when it comes to comments made about the US over quite some time. How will this impact, particularly when it comes to players who will be applying for visas and for those who will be trying to support their teams at the World Cup?
We've obviously seen over not just recent months, but I think over the last 2 or 3 years, Gianni Infantino, the FIFA president, literally being glued to the side of Donald Trump and following his every move. And that, I think, from an operational perspective, is evidence that Infantino is genuinely concerned about what potentially may happen next summer. You've got some very high-profile cases, for example, Iran. Iranian people currently are subject to a travel ban into the United States, and clearly for not just the Iranian national team, but the coaches, media officials, sponsors, commercial partners, and so forth. There have got to be questions about whether they will even be able to get into the country to be part of Iran's games that will take place there. And so this is a genuine concern. And what I think adds to not just the Iranian case, but cases more generally, is the unpredictability of Donald Trump, and not really knowing what he might do from one day to the next. And as I say, Infantino is sticking close because he needs to know. This is FIFA's cash cow tournament. It's its biggest revenue generating asset. It only takes place every 4 years, and the last thing Infantino needs is for large groups of fans, and for that matter, large groups of sponsors, commercial partners, media members, somehow having their access to the United States either stopped or alternatively curbed in some way. So this is a hugely sensitive World Cup in the making, potentially.
And Professor, staying with FIFA President Infantino, I mean, just last week we saw something that has never happened before, and that was the awarding of a peace prize to US President Donald Trump. How problematic is this, particularly with the backlash it has since received?
In theory, this is a good idea. Why shouldn't FIFA award a peace prize? And as we know, football does serve a purpose globally in terms of resolving conflict and addressing issues of social cohesion. But I think the big issue here is it's not entirely clear why this was introduced now. It's not clear what the criteria were in assessing who the candidate should be. It's not even clear if there are any other candidates beyond Donald Trump. So inevitably, this has led to an amount of cynicism across the world. And many people are questioning, is this just a sop to Donald Trump, to keep Donald Trump on side? I think unless Infantino comes out and says, absolutely, here are the criteria, here were the candidates, then that will lead people to make their own conclusions. I suppose another interpretation of this is going back to what I've just said, is Infantino will be very, very nervous about delivering a successful and untroubled, undisrupted tournament. And the way things are right now, nobody can give any guarantees. And so I think this is really, this is currency, this is leverage with Donald Trump to ensure that the US president doesn't intervene and doesn't create the kind of instability and turbulence that Infantino is fearing.
Professor, thank you so much for your time and for that insight. That's Professor Simon Chadwick there, just giving us an insight in terms of what we can expect, of course, next year as the FIFA World Cup kicks off. And this relates to a number of issues relating to issues around visas and the use of social media.